It has been said that it is reminiscent, perhaps worse than the Rodney King video. Is that your assessment?
That's my assessment. I was in law enforcement during the Rodney King incident, and it's very much aligned with that same type of behavior.
That it's worse?
Sort of groupthink. I would say it's about the same, if not worse.
That's Memphis Police Chief C.J. Davis with a warning, really, about the video that the city is set to release tonight of the police officer savagely beating Tyre Nichols, saying that it will remind many people of the infamous 1991 police beating of Rodney King, saying it's as bad, if not worse. But when you think of it, it has to be worse because Rodney King survived that beating. Tyre Nichols did not. Joining me now is John Burris. He's a longtime civil rights attorney who represented Rodney King after that police beating. Mr. Burris, thank you for being here. We will all see the video of Tyre Nichols, this video tonight. But from that comparison from that people are making, the people that have seen this video, comparing it to Rodney King, what do you think that means?
Well, it means that the police were out of control and that they were beating a person senselessly without any justification for it. Certainly in Rodney King's case, there was this beating that went on and went on and on, and they were trying to beat him into submission. And as a consequence of that, he received terrible, terrible injuries, many of which he probably never really recovered from. I don't think that he ever recovered to go back to being Rodney King that he was before. And so these kinds of beatings not only adversely affected him in the most damaging way, but it also affected the community as well. Because in those days, look, there wasn't this outcry in support of Rodney King. The Black community was outraged, but the vast majority of the community was not, because they had never seen this type of beating before. And so Rodney King was kind of the first time that people could really see that the police could, in fact, engage in the most brutal type of conduct imaginable. And some of it obviously was racially motivated, because in that on the tape, we could hear during the trial that there was the N-word being said often. But we don't necessarily have that, I don't believe, in the present case with Tyre Nichols. And as much as all the officers were Black, that doesn't mean they didn't use racial slurs, but it's a different connotation when the officers who engage in the conduct are Black versus those in the Rodney King case, well, at least 3 of those were white men. And so you had the stark reality of it. And plus, in Rodney King, you had a long history of these particular officers engaging in severe misconduct. I can remember Officer Powell was the person who talked about gorillas in the mist. There was this complete stereotypic notion of the community, and it was racially motivated. I would not think that that's necessarily true here in Memphis, but it can be. Just because it's Black officers does not mean it's not racially motivated, particularly if there's a practice that's taking place of stereotyping the Black community and going after people in that community. It very well can be. So, but at the same time, we know in the Rodney King case, what we had was these officers were found not guilty, and that was shocking. And I would say that ultimately we had to have the federal criminal trials. We had the 2 criminal trial, then ultimately we had the federal civil trial, which I was in. And even in that case, there was justification on the part of the judge himself to indicate that much of what had taken place was lawful and did not necessarily blame the police officers for it. I don't know if that's going to happen in this.
Yeah. With your perspective, I mean, from 1991 and since then, you've represented many victims of police brutality since then, yes. And now you have Tyre Nichols. How much progress do you see? How much progress do you think there has been made in policing when we're still talking about allegations of police brutality on this level today?
Well, we certainly are having that, but I will say that I can see a lot of progress being made that has been made in different jurisdictions and different police agencies. And mainly the most important thing is the cell phone and the body-worn cameras, because now you don't have this dispute about the hearsay of the officer versus that of a victim or witnesses. So that part has been extraordinarily important. So therefore, we have many more officers who are being held accountable. We also have many more officers being prosecuted than we had before. But by no means is this problem totally corrected. I've been involved in a number of cases, and we still have improper shootings. We still have improper beatings. But I will say this. Since the cameras have been in, we have not had the kind of beatings that we see in this particular case. This is really shocking that you would have officers engage in this level of beating that's comparable to Rodney King when they have cell phones and video cameras when everybody can see, unless they thought that the policy of the department would protect them. And obviously it's not going to, but you cannot have that kind of level of activity and think that you're just going to get away with it when someone has a camera. Of course, you always have the question of, you know, the code of silence among officers. And in this case, you will have to kind of work through different roles. And the same thing we had in the Rodney King case. Remember, the defense put up a valid, very aggressive defense, basically trying to make Rodney King the victim of his own demise, that he, in fact, had caused whatever happened to him to happen because of his own conduct. And so that notwithstanding what appears to be on the face outrageous conduct and outrageous beating, that there will be efforts on the part of these defense lawyers to try to demonize Tyre at some point during the case to save themselves.
And we have seen that in previous trials that is certain. Well, this evening we will all see this video together, and we will see about those comparisons to the horrible beating of Rodney King as well. John Burris, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you. Good to be with you.
We'll be right back.